But we're efforting the exact audio, but there are more and more rumblings that Daniel Snyder remains uber involved in the draft selection process.
Meddler.
With some sources saying that he will not allow them to draft a quarterback.
Right.
Wow.
Well, because Dwayne was his guy.
Yeah.
Makes all the sense in the world. First of all, it's who Dan is.
But
he
he's
likes to be involved in the glamour picks.
supposed to be different. Supposed to be coach. They picked Ron Rivera because it'd be a coach-centric approach.
Yep.
Well,
So he
that
should
was
be-
the whole deal. That was the
I'm
whole
sure
setup.
it
Ron
is.
Rivera do whatever he wants to do.
He doesn't have to deal with Bruce. He just has to deal with Dan now.
Which might be even a bigger nightmare.
Yeah.
Now that the buffer zone has been removed.
Dan has already proven over his 20-year tenure, his reign of terror over this organization, that he's not going to change. And for us to keep thinking that he will is just, that's our bad.
I thought it was troubling when I heard Chase Young say that he met with Mr. Snyder. And I don't know how, maybe that's commonplace.
Probably.
Maybe Chase Young met with Robert Kraft too and other owners.
I'm
You
sure
don't have
other
to call him
owners.
Mr. Snyder. I know that he wants everybody
No,
that
that's
works
what
for him.
Chase Young refers
Oh,
to
I
him
know
as.
because he could be employed by him at some point.
Yeah. He's Dan.
I'll never call him Mr. Snyder.
Yeah.
But one day you hear that the coaching staff's meeting with Tua and they're interested in him, and then the next day you hear Snyder won't allow him to take him.
Right.
Well, I'm
It's
sure
just a
that
mess over
those are
there.
both true.
It's just a complete mess.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's both true. That the staff is intrigued. They have Tua rated very highly. They're very much intrigued by the possibility of potentially selecting him. But Dan's putting his foot down and saying, look, we're not going to do
Well,
it.
it tells you that means nothing has changed.
But,
Yes.
but
Nothing-
Rivera and the
everything's
coaching
the same.
staff should have known that way before the combine. They should have known that when he was hired.
Yeah, but in the
I
end,
believe they did know that.
in the end, in when moment of truth in the draft room, can't Ron Rivera just call and say, our pick is Tua Tagovailoa?
I would love
That's
that.
the worst pronunciation.
that was try it again. The floor is yours.
Tua. I don't even want to
Tua
bother.
Tagovailoa.
Tua Tag.
Yeah,
I've been
just call
calling
him
him
Tua.
I've been
Everybody
calling him Tua Tag for
Tua
3 years.
Tagovailoa.
But if Rivera has any hesitation to draft him, even if he thinks he's vastly superior to Haskins because he knows the owner's going to get upset, then again the Redskins are just spinning their wheels. It's just stupid.
It's
Yes.
frustrating.
It's dumb.
Yes, but to think otherwise is crazy. Like, I think that, Rivera's going to be a good, competent coach, and I'm sure he has a lot of sway in over in that building. But at the end of the day, with the big, massive decisions, of course Dan's going to be involved. He's always been involved. It's never going to change.
Imagine pinning your hopes on a quarterback that you fell in love with because he went to the same high school as your son.
Well, let's hope that's not the reason why.
You think that's not a big part of it?
I don't know.
I'm sure.
I think the
I'm
fact
sure
that he
the
threw for
local-
50 touchdowns at Ohio State, he liked that. It's not like, he's just picking
but there
kids from
okay,
bullets
but
on the regular.
The
but what
NFL
if-
is littered with the bones of guys who threw for 45 or 50 touchdowns in college and did nothing in the
but
pros.
Here's my question.
Correct, but
What
this
if-
was on big time.
Yeah. What if Dwayne was from Kansas City?
I don't know the answer to that. I
You know
would
what I mean?
assume he's still
There's no
like
chance Dan Snyder's watching Buckeye games on Saturdays.
I would.
He's not.
I mean, okay. If you guys think
got-
he did it just because he went to his son's high school, I think it's more than
No,
that.
I think the local angle had something to do with it.
Maybe a small percentage. I don't think that was the tipping
I
point.
think the local angle with Chase Young has a lot to do with them taking him at 2. If
Why?
they do.
Chase is some consider the best player in the whole draft.
I understand, but I think the local angle with Dan Snyder doesn't know anything about college football. He doesn't know the players.
Yeah, but
so if he's relying on his people, that's one thing. But it doesn't sound like he's relying on his people when it comes to Dwayne Haskins.
Well, look, it's the same pattern that he had with Robert. He was enamored with Robert. He kind of, by all accounts, maybe Shanny is just trying to recreate history, but Shanny didn't really want to get involved in all that and trading up and everything for Robert, the 3 number ones and everything. And then once they did, he stood by him for a long, long time. Took a long time for Dan to finally give up and kind of wave the white flag and let Kirk take over.
Yeah.
And this is what he's doing with Dwayne.
Well, we talked about this yesterday or Monday. I don't believe they're going to take Tua either. I think I would put money on they're going to take Chase Young. But I would love to know what Rivera and those guys really feel about Dwayne. Would love to know that.
I think they're okay.
They're probably
not
up in the
love
air
with him.
on it. They don't know.
Yeah,
Because he's very much an unknown. Let's be honest. Dwayne Haskins showed improvement. He showed a lot of growth. I think he's still got
I
an
think
upside.
there's-
I'm not giving up on him, but he's a huge
There's
question
still
mark.
a possibility that if Tua really looks good and 100% healthy in this pro day, maybe Rivera and his guys, Kyle Smith, can convince Dan Snyder.
I would love to go
I
out for a
doubt
beer
it.
with Ron Rivera and ask him.
Oh, I know.
Despite all the money, do you regret signing on to be head coach of the Washington Redskins?
No, it's too early for that.
He might regret it already. He might be thinking, you know what? This is not what I signed up for.
Also, we have to see how it plays out.
I
What if he ends
understand.
up
They haven't played
drafting
one
Tua?
game yet. But I'm guessing probably has some regrets.
I think it'd be hard for a coach to come in and ignore the owner's basic demand that they go in a certain direction. I think it'd be hard.
All right, so when he came in the interview in Ashburn and said, yeah, I'd love to work here, Dan. Dan said, all right, I'll hire you, but you have to play Dwayne Haskins for 4 years.
He said he probably said
I
that. He
doubt
probably,
he said that.
he
Come
probably
on.
didn't say it that way. He probably just said, hey, listen, how do you feel about Haskins? And he probably said, hey, look, he looks like a bright young prospect. I'm excited to work with him. And that maybe that
But
was
what
good
if you
enough.
All right, but what if you said, but I like Tua more?
Well, he might not
Probably
even.
didn't say that
Tua
at the
might not
time.
even have been on his radar.
Oh, I mean, come on. They knew Tua was coming out. Look, I'm not surprised that Dan Snyder's meddling. We had heard that some other things that he was kind of backing off over the last couple of years, and I figured since Bruce is out of the picture, it'd be easier for a new coach and a new GM or Kyle Smith.
But
or whoever
nothing
to
ever
make-
changes
to
it.
make their own decisions, but maybe not.
Here's what Todd McShay said yesterday on ESPN. JP from the Jug.
Oh.
He didn't say that.
What do you got, Valdez? You got it over there? All right, he's efforting with
computer
his
issues.
computer. Here we go.
Who do you see down the list where you go, that guy, maybe a defensive tackle or someone like that, that guy could be a Hall of Famer that someone steals a little later on?
Derek Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn. You can make the argument that he's a better player than Chase Young if you study every single game. Now, Young is a physical freak, and his production was great, and I think he's going to be a great player in the league, and I would take him at number 2 if I wasn't taking a quarterback. If I was running the Redskins, I would take Chase Young at number 2. If Daniel Snyder told me I couldn't take a quarterback, that's the guy I would take.
So it's kind of alluding
Nice
to the
little dig.
rumors.
Yeah, and well, because
he
then
did-
he later or earlier he had done a bit, I think, with Stephen A. Whatever the hell the name of that show is.
Did he say he had a source that said Dan?
Stephen A. said, "I'm hearing that the Redskins are not going to draft Tua, that they're going to draft," and he said, "Yes, I'm hearing this." McShay said, "Yes, I'm hearing the same thing. The owner won't let him."
Okay, he did say that.
Yeah, that's what he. Who knows where they're hearing that from?
It's
Everyone
troubling.
has a source.
Yeah. I mean,
bottom
aren't there
line is-
guys here that
source.
Grant know Kyle Smith? Go just text
Who's
Kyle,
the
find
other
out.
source that we
what's going
talked
on.
about last week who said, yeah, they're really looking at Tua.
Yeah.
I just
Bottom
feel
line
like-
is
well,
it's troubling. It's troubling.
Yeah, I feel like Rivera's already been neutered before the first draft. That all this clout that he allegedly had has now gone out the window. I feel like he's
I'm in a
basically powerless.
wait and see mode right now.
Dude, nobody is more alpha male than Mike Shanahan, and he was neutered.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
I guess it's just what happens when you sign on the dotted line.
Mike
here in DC.
Shanahan is Mr. Alpha Male, and he was completely, at the end of the day, neutered by Dan.
I would think at some point some coach is going to sit down with Dan before he signs and say, "I will come here, but you will have no impact on personnel decisions." Speaking
Those
to Dan
guys
Snyder.
don't get the job.
Yeah,
They don't
maybe-
get the
Maybe they
30
don't.
million.
Maybe they don't. But that, if I were a coach of Rivera's stature, I would have a clause in my contract that says, if you start meddling in personnel matters, and I would consider this meddling, I'm walking and I'm getting full payment. And if you don't want to pay me, that's fine. I'm going to go to the next team that will hire
Well,
me.
Cakes did say something, that you should put it in your contract. I don't know if you said that just now.
Absolutely.
You should put in your
Absolutely.
contract when you sign with the Redskins that you sign your deal, but that you're free to walk if the owner ever intervenes in personnel decisions.
Correct.
I'm going to tell you that.
I don't know.
I'm sure that you're not going to
You
get
would
the
never
job.
sign it.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I'm going
It's
to tell
not
you,
going to
this
happen.
is just my gut. My gut is that Snyder didn't tell Rivera, you cannot draft Tua. That's just my gut.
My
It's a
gut,
guess. I
my
wouldn't put it
gut
past
is
him to
that
do
he's
that.
strongly against it because he was the guy that insisted, by all accounts, that they draft Dwayne last year. He showed some growth. He doesn't want to give up on it yet. They have a quarterback he thinks they can win with, and Chase Young is, by all accounts, the dreaded generational talent, that term that everyone uses.
Yeah.
And why would you pass up on that?
Well, they might not.
Yeah.
But
It
everyone,
can't really
everyone
go
has
wrong.
Everyone has a source. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that someone actually said, or Dan actually said, don't draft a quarterback.
Correct.
What's that game that you play when you're elementary school? and
Telephone game?
Telephone game.
Correct.
Right. Someone could have told someone who told someone who told someone who told McShay,
Right.
yeah, he doesn't really like
Well, you don't find it
quarterback.
interesting, though, that Stephen A's got his sources, presumably, whoever they are.
They're all blowhards.
And Todd, yeah, but they're probably not making it up. Somebody's telling them. I would agree.
Yeah.
Right?
And I
Somebody's
believe-
telling
and I
Todd.
believe the other guy who had the sources said they really like Tua. Why wouldn't you believe that? That they want to draft Tua. I believe
that too.
Yeah.
I believe all of it. I believe they like Tua, and Dan is insisting that they don't pick him, though. I believe all that. That's the scenario. I believe that scenario exists.
Dan's probably pro Dwayne. I get that, but
Yeah.
I don't. Again, I want to see what happens on draft night.
We'll
See where
know.
they
We'll
go.
know what we'll know on draft night. We'll know.
Yep.
Well, the thing is, we won't know if Rivera really wanted him. That's the problem.
Do you think that Dwayne Haskins, the whole pissed off for greatness tweet,
Yeah.
do you think he's called Dan and been like, hey, what's going on?
Well, I hope not, because it's not really.
That would be the most unhealthy situation. That would feel very RG3
He's essentially a rookie.
Right.
You just got to eat it. You got to just perform.
Of course. I agree with you.
You shouldn't have that kind of sway.
But that to me would feel like RG3, like,
Of
oh,
course.
I'm going to the owner,
yeah, of course.
bypassing the head coach.
You really shouldn't have that kind of sway.
No.
You just have to be able to deal. You have to have. There's the one thing I would say about Dwayne, and I think he has upside, and he can win. We can win with Dwayne Haskins. I really believe that. Eventually, he's got thin skin. There's no doubt about it.
Seems like it.
You know, he probably would be better served not being so active on social media. But all the kids are. So I get it. But he appears to have fairly thin skin, which I don't think is a great look for him. But it's fine. Doesn't matter.
I don't necessarily believe this report. I find it hard to believe that the owner who just hired a head coach who said this is going to be a coach-centric approach would all of a sudden in like a month or two turn around and
Bow
say,
down.
you can't draft this guy. I don't think he actually said that. But it is troubling nevertheless because usually where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's
Right.
probably something going on
I
there.
mean, if
Of
Rivera
course.
and his staff really believe that Tua was the future and they could win a Super Bowl with Tua, he could convince Dan Snyder that.
Maybe.
I
But
would
he
think.
shouldn't have to convince at all.
I
He should just be
know, I
able to
know.
do his job.
I get it.
He
You
should say,
hired him, do his job.
I know about football. You don't, and I'm going to be the guy that
Yeah.
makes the
He
pick.
should just say, look, be the owner, do whatever you want to do, but just let me coach and draft and judge me by my record.
Right.
And if my record sucks in a couple years, you can fire me.
Yeah. I don't even know what I want as a fan. I know as a radio host, I want him to draft Tua.
Right.
I don't even know
You
what I
the
want as a
drama.
fan.
Yeah, you want the
Well,
drama.
if Tua's going to be the
Markedly
best, you want him.
better, but nobody knows. Tua's got question marks too.
Yeah, you don't know.
He's got huge health concerns. I think he's been injured, like significant injury 3 times at Alabama. And I think there's still a little bit of questions, about his size.
Well, I wouldn't say significant. I mean, the hip was significant. Ankle's not
The
significant.
hip is
Everyone has ankle problems.
okay, but he had ankle surgery. Anytime you
Yeah.
go under the knife, and I've read a doctor saying that the hip injury, no matter how, if he fully recovers 100%, is going to shorten his career. Arthritis is going to set in much earlier. There's just no
Okay.
question about it.
Yeah, I mean, the hip injury was serious. No doubt.
Yeah.
A lot of guys
But-
don't enter the draft
he
with,
could
with
go
the
out
injury
there-
history, and like Deshaun Watson had injury problems, and it's worked out so far for
True.
the Houston Texans.
True. That doesn't mean you can't be successful. Right. It's just a question. Abby, you look like you want to say something. No?
No.
Okay. You're staring at
He
me.
just has a vacant look on his face.
You're staring at me in my dreamy eyes?
I'm
or?
not staring at you.
Oh, okay.
I want to play the Tua pronouncing his last name for Cake so he can learn it.
I thought Cake said it correctly.
No. he
Tua Tagovailoa.
I may
you
not
guys-
have said
you
it
guys are
correctly. I said it better than John Paul Flame did.
Go, say,
didn't.
go,
Yeah. No, I
play it.
I pulled it here.
play it.
Tua Tagovailoa. So the last name,
Tagovailoa.
Tagovailoa,
What is it?
you can say tongue, Vailoa.
Tongue instead of tag.
Tungo Vailoa.
Okay, whatever.
You're going to get used to it.
Nah,
Throwing
it's not going to
touchdowns
happen.
just call him
It's not going to
Tua.
happen.
Who was
People
that?
call him
People are gonna
Tua.
call
Who was that audio? Was that Tua?
That was Tua.
That was
Yeah,
Tua.
yeah.
No, it was just like my audio of my guy.
Hey, why don't you
But you know what? No one in
juxtapose
the
that?
American media pronounces it
Yeah.
that way.
Why don't you
In his
put-
own culture, it's pronounced that way, but no
Well,
one in
it's,
the
the, it's
media.
the same thing with Wusteisen.
Right.
They asked Wusteisen, how is your name pronounced?
Right. Everyone in the media pronounces it Oosthuizen.
Wusteisen.
Or
And they asked
Oosthuizen.
him when he first burst onto the scene, do you have the audio?
Wusthuizen.
Thank you.
Wusthuizen.
Nobody says it, though.
Wusthuizen.
And then
Our whole
Steve
audience is
Sands
thinking, who's
yells at me
Wusteisen?
when I tell him he's pronouncing it incorrectly.
Right. Everyone.
Wusthuizen.
It's Wusteisen. So for me,
he gets the
he's
most
Wusteisen.
run on this show for any show on the planet.
Yeah.
Forever, I will call him Tagovailoa. If that's what he
Tungo
wants.
Vailoa.
There you go.
I'm calling him Tua Tag. Takes too long to say the last name.
All right, let's go to Mo in Largo. Mo, what's up, buddy? You're on with the Junks.
Good morning, fellas. Thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
As you know, initially I was on the whole pro Tua bandwagon. I kept seeing what I wanted to see versus what I was actually looking at. And what I'm actually looking at is a injury-prone quarterback who has a tremendous upside, but he gets injured, and that's something that we need to stay away from. After watching the Combine this past weekend, there is an incredible amount of talent that's coming out this year. And I think the proper approach would be trying to amass as much draft capital as possible. Now, if we don't go in that direction, I understand. But honestly, I really think the steal of the draft is going to be that guy out of Clemson, Isaiah Simmons. I think he is the one that falls into that generational talent category. I mean, guys that are 6'4", running 4.39s that can affect your defense at all three levels don't just fall off trees, fellas. I think we should legitimately give some serious consideration to drafting that young man because I believe his upside is
Well, I wouldn't draft him at 2 because you could get him a few spots later.
Yeah, you move down,
why
pick him
I
at
said
4 or
draft that.
5.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, if you can orchestrate a trade and get a couple guys, I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, thank you, Mo.